everybody, and welcome to another edition, another episode, another podcast of Question by Mark. Now, today I am joined by Charlie Mullins again. This is the first time I've had a guest on that's coming back for the second time, so he should be privileged with that. We're going to be talking about reform and him standing for reform. Last time I interviewed Charlie, we talked about a few different things. And then the next day I found out that he was standing for the reforms. I was like, no. So I messaged him and said, let's get you back on so we can talk about it, please. And he's agreed to do that. So and I just want to say as well, I'm not 100% fit today. I've got a bit of a snotty nose. I've got a bit of a sweat on. And hopefully it's not COVID. So we'll muddle through it anyway. I've got a lot on today, so I'll try my best. But if you see me snotting or all that kind of thing, then please forgive me. So I'm going to talk to Charlie now. I'm going to bring him in. Charlie's in Marbella at the moment, so we'll be joining him from there. Morning, Charlie. How are we doing?
Hi, morning, Mark. I'm sorry to hear you're not so well, but hopefully it's not COVID. But you don't know these days, do you? What it is?
Well, I did a test, Charlie, and it came back negative, but I don't know.
All right.
I got a bit of a chest, a bit of a throat, a bit of a sweat on, but there we go. I'll be all right. So
to Marbella.
Yeah, I'd love to, mate, honestly.
That'll help you.
So the last time we spoke, we talked about reform, we talked about a few things. And then the next day, I found out that you were actually standing for reform. And obviously that piqued my interest a little bit. So I managed to get you there. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, to be honest. So the first question I got to you, Charlie, is with regards to reform, what are your thoughts on the current state of politics, particularly in terms of policy and leadership? So what's your thoughts on what's in place at the moment in the way of policy and leadership?
Well, I'm obviously not impressed with it at the moment, like probably most of the country. I really don't think we're gaining any ground. I think we're going backwards. I think that, the people in these, the Prime Minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and the other one, I can't watch the Deputy Prime Minister or whatever. I think they're out of their depth on the role that they're doing, and we just don't seem to be making any progress. We could talk hours about it, but all and everything I think that Rachel Reeves has done is gone against the economy and gone against sort of working people. We're just going nowhere. I mean, if it continues as bad as it is, then we've got big problems ahead, and I think we know that anyhow, but that something would start to turn, but it's not turning. And, I've heard them Labour going on about it lately that, we're starting to turn and things are getting better. They're not getting better. I mean, it's a crazy thing to say, and it's very misleading again. It's actually getting a lot worse, and, they need to be a bit more truthful and try and come up with something that's going to help everybody. But, the economy is going to suffer badly over this, NI increase and other employment laws. People are just not taking people on. And, I'm talking to certain people and they go, no, that's not the case. But they're wrong. It is the case. They was wrong about everyone leaving, like the millionaires and billionaires. And they said they weren't leaving, but they did leave and they are leaving, and it's continuing.
Yeah. And it's scary thought that we've got 4 more years of this and one opportunity to get them out, because if we don't take them out, the next time, then I fear we're going to have 12, 16 years of this. So what motivated you, Charlie, to join and stand for reform, and especially after your history of being a staunch Remainer?
Yeah, a lot of people have said that to me. They said, we can't understand it. You're totally against Brexit, and now you've joined up with a party that probably, or not the party, but the members of the party that actually more or less brought that about. Look, the situation is there. I still don't believe that Brexit's done the UK any good. Okay. We're worse off by it. I don't see any advantages, and I don't see any advantages coming. But the fact is, that's the result. We have to live with it. We need to just get on with it. And it's just, what one part of that's probably the only thing I disagree with Nigel Farage and reform. But, it's not a big deal today, in the EU or out of the EU. We're getting by without it, but, I don't see that we're going to be any better. But
so do you? Sorry for interrupting,
all
mate.
Different football teams, Mark.
Yeah.
we can still be friends, but disagree on who's the best team.
So do you still stick by that now, as we currently are, we would be better off in the EU than what we are at the minute, as things stand?
I believe so, yes.
You think so?
I still stick with that.
Yeah. It's like you've got the Germans that they're going right and their economy's crashing. France are in a pickle as well. So I don't know is the honest answer from my point of view.
Yeah,
Obviously.
well, none of us know, but whether they was in the EU or not in the EU, they would still be in trouble. Germany, you know, it's pretty much across the board. There's big problems out there, you know, and now it's you know, we've got to change our policies. I think a lot. Yeah.
So there's been some controversy about your candidacy due to your past political alignments. Yeah. So how do you address these concerns within the party and potential voters?
What's the concerns, Mark? Sorry.
So there's been some controversy about your candidacy, and it's all around, you know, you're a staunch Remainer, and you know your way of thinking. So the fact is that's gone. You're now standing. So how do you address these concerns and with the party, but more importantly with potential voters?
Yeah. Well, look, I don't think I'm going to change on views and opinions. Maybe I need to just draw it in a little bit that you know, not be so direct and blunt on some of the things I'm saying, but nothing's going to change. I'm not going to sort of fall in line because it's not acceptable or they don't like what I've got to say. So I don't see it as a big deal. And you know, I'm getting a lot of feedback from people saying that, you know, we need someone like you in there. We need someone who's prepared to stand up and not go with the flow and say it as it is and get things changed. I mean, it's a bit like Reform and Nigel Farage. You know, people don't necessarily like the way he says it and what he says at times, but he's going to make changes, and that's what we need.
So on Nigel Farage, how do you think the dynamic with you and him is going to work?
Well, we've never had an issue in the past.
Okay.
So we've been sort of, we're, I suppose, involved with each other 4 or 5 years. We've never had one issue. We've never had an issue. The Brexit thing gets mentioned and is put to one side. I think we're drinking from the same teapot on certainly from getting people into work and knowing how to get the economy going again, get things moving. So, you know, I don't see it as a problem. You know, if he's unhappy with something about me, he'll let me know. And if I'm unhappy about something with him, I'll let his people know.
Okay, yeah, it's from my point of view, it's quite concerning when I'm on X and I read certain accounts and I see certain comments from people that every time that a camera's or a microphone's put in front of Nigel Farage, they always ask about Tommy Robinson, and they do that for one reason: it's to cause divide, because they know that every time they ask that, he's going to be silly and say what he says, and I do think he's being silly when he says it, rather saying nothing at all from my point of view. And then you see comments, and then you think, God, literally, guys, we've got 4 years, and then we're going to be voting again. And I honestly believe that if we don't do it this time, then we're knackered, we're screwed. And I can see the divide already start happening. How does some of Nigel Farage's comments sit with you on Tommy Robinson and also on Islam and illegal immigrants? And what I mean by comments, I mean recent comments, because before he became an MP, he was very much, we've got to deport everybody, we've, you know, that they're the problem, etc. But since he's been an MP, he's toned it right down to the point where people are actually concerned about what he's saying. So how does that sit with you?
I still like what he says because I think he's being honest and I think he's being truthful. And you know, it's supposed to be free speech and but every time, you know, you say something today, you know yourself, Mark, you've had issues yourself with what you say and what you don't. You know, I don't see it as a problem what he's saying. You know, he might say the wrong thing and everyone jumps on the bandwagon, but you know, I'm more interested in the right things that he's saying. And is the Tommy Robinson a big deal to Reform? We're talking about one individual. You know, I'm sure Reform can do as well as they're going to do without Tommy Robinson. You know, yeah. I'm not, you know, that's it really. It's a bit like the Elon Musk, you know, he says Nigel's not the man. What's his name? Donald Trump says he is the man. So what does it matter what some of these people say and think? I mean, obviously, I know we have to be careful politically, and we have to be careful from religion point of view, and obviously wars and this type of thing. But I really don't see that Nigel Farage is saying anything wrong. I really don't.
So I think the issue lies with some of the voters, because ultimately a lot of Reform voters are also Tommy Robinson supporters. Tommy Robinson himself has come out and said, you need to vote for Reform. You need to vote for Reform. I think people are taking umbrage with the fact that when these mainstream media folk are putting a camera in front of him about Tommy Robinson, it's only meant for one reason, and that's to cause controversy and divide on the right. Would you think he's best served to say nothing at all, or are you happy with him saying, look, because he can say, look, he's not for us, without having to say some of the things that he's saying? And I just think that he might be making a rod for his own back, especially with what I'm reading online about, he called us them lot, and et cetera, et cetera. Do you think he's being unwise with the way he approaches it?
Well, again, but I'm going to say you can always pull it apart. You know what I mean? I mean, I should say something today, and you'll have a few of the moaners and the haters on, and I should say something else that's good. It's just different people's opinion. Okay, look, yes, less he says, the better. I'm going to agree with you. The less he says, the better. But I respect the fact that he's prepared to say it. We don't want the normal politician that we've got at the moment that won't answer a question and avoid it. He's doing what he feels is the correct thing. Yeah, we could all tone it down. We've all got different views and opinions. I mean, like you said to me in the past, what do you think about Tommy Robinson? And, I've just said to you, look, I think Reform can do very well without him. And if I don't think he's going to be part of Reform, that seems fairly obvious. But I don't think it's a talking point for 10 minutes. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot more interesting people that are joining the party than someone like Tommy Robinson. Some good business people are joining up now, some serious players, and that's what we should be talking about. The people that are going to get Reform into number 10.
And you're one of them, and I'm pleased that you're standing. If I'm honest, and I'm also pleased that Ant Middleton looks like he might be having a go for London Mayor. They're the type of people that I want to see in the party. Normal people with strong opinions that will do the necessary to turn the shit show around. To be honest, do you know what constituency you're going to be standing for?
Yeah, it'd be sort of Lambeth area or Southwark or Bermondsey. Something like where I've been brought up and know the area quite well, and I believe I understand the people there, and got a lot more in common with them. And I feel that would be the place I'd want to be, because I understand them areas a lot better. The other option, I mean, I live in Westminster. Well, I don't live in Westminster. Well, actually, I do live in Westminster. I have better rephrase that. I have an apartment in Westminster, but I live in Marbella. If it's Westminster, then so it be. I mean, but I just feel Lambeth, Bermondsey, Southwark, I had the companies in them areas, and still have the, We Fix London in that area. And I think that would be a lot more sort of workable, a lot more achievable. And, I'm going to say the same thing whether I'm in Bermondsey or if I'm in Westminster. I'm still not going to go with the flow. I'm going to disagree with a lot of the stupidness that they come up with, and waste of time and waste of money. So, yeah, whichever area. But, am I going to get people vote for me? I don't see why not. I mean, I've been welcomed into the party. I've been, invited to the fundraisers and the press conferences, so I'm as involved as I can be at the moment. And, the people on Reform have all got the same message, really. They need Labour out of number 10 and Reform into number 10. It's as simple as that. And, I don't see it as a big problem, because you have a character that says something and he don't agree with this or he don't agree with that. We could go on about migrants, immigrants, illegals. We go on about benefits. It doesn't win me any votes, but in the same token, I'm not gonna just go to people please. You know what I mean? I'd rather not be involved if I was just ticking the box.
So you said that you're not going to people please. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you were head of the party. Yeah. What would be your number one policy to get votes, two, to get into power? What would be your number one?
My policy to get votes and power.
Yeah, the main thing that you would that would be number one on everyone's lips, to be honest, the way that you would go in. What would be your number one policy?
Yeah, well, somehow we've got to try and get the UK back as our country, claim our country back. Have our rules and regulations and make the others comply with what we are. So personally, I think the key to it all is getting people into work. I feel that the work thing is such a massive knock-on effect, from it gives us more money in the government. It gives us people off the streets. There's not so much crime going on. People can sort of feel more proud and feel part of society. So I feel getting people into work is the way forward. And, getting them off of benefits or getting them off of just sitting at home doing nothing. I think we just got to, for me, that's my strong point, whether that be younger people or older people. We've got to get businesses moving again. We know it's been destroyed in London, with unfortunately the current mayor and the way he's gone about it. And it's without business in the UK, we're nothing or nobody. I mean, you see that with Trump. I mean, the moves he's made within a week, it's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, it's nice to see.
That, I believe Nigel Farage will follow suit. I really do.
I hope so. So talking about businesses, so given your entrepreneurial and business background, how do you think Reform UK can better serve small businesses and entrepreneurs?
Well, obviously, stop this nonsense about a leaving tax and any nonsense about increases in tax. The worst thing for the economy is the increase in the taxes and national insurance and the workers' rights at the moment. They're just destroying businesses. So, I'd reverse everything that she's done, Rachel Reeves. She says she wants to get growth going. If she wants to get growth going, she needs to reverse all her decisions that she's made, penalising successful people. And the amount of people that know that, and it's already showing on the effect, Mark, of the amount of people that are out of work or planning now to shut down, at the beginning of April. It's actually companies are planning it. Some guy said the other day on X, and I think it was a silly thing to say. I'm saying this in not a being unkind to the guy, but he said, I don't see Eric make any difference, a few pound on the NI on an individual for a company, but it's not an individual that you're looking at. Business is looking at 100 people or something, and that's £1,000 a person, 100 grand a year. Of course, it's going to have a massive effect. But when this fella said it, he said, I think if they wanted that person to do the job, the company would pay that extra money. But, we're not talking about a one individual, you know what I mean? We're talking about big companies that employing loads of people and selling their products and everything with a knock-on effect. So it's very damaging. It's probably, I think it's going to be the what they call it, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just one too much is the NI with all the other things. So I would reverse everything she's done, and I would encourage people back into the UK. I would do tax breaks. I would do just a different, raise the tax bracket from the other end so that people on the lower wage are not paying so much tax and save the money elsewhere, Mark. That's what I believe, I mean, I honestly believe that we can save the type of money that they think they're going to get from raising taxes. I think there's many other areas to save it from.
Yeah, I mean, every time she seems to get in front of the camera, I mean, her go-to response is, we was left in this mess by the Tories. Now, I know that the Tories proper messed up. This £22 billion black hole, do you think that's a fact? Do you think they're just using that? I mean, how long can they dine out on the fact of this 22 billion black hole? Now, because the OPS, they would have, when you're having a general election, they are privy to all of those details, and they never mention this 22 billion black hole once. So I think it is a tactic of theirs. But what's your thought process of it? Any truth in it? How long can they dine out on that? Because how long they've been in now? 6 months, and it just seems to be the only thing they say.
Yeah, look, no doubt there is the black hole there, and no doubt it's been there for a long time. And they're playing on the fact that, yes, we know it. Okay, well, let's do something about it. Let's do a Trump. Let's do something that's going to change things. I keep going on about him because some of the things he's changed, like with the
Oh, he's brilliant.
legals and the gender thing. And I think it's next week, on the 7th, that if everybody don't turn up, anyone who don't turn up at the office or work is finished job. What a great move that is. I mean, if anything's going to get the UK moving, it would be that, to get people back in the workplace. And, so the Labour are going on about, this is what the hands we've been dealt with. These are the cards we've been dealt with. But everybody knows that as a businessman, you can change them cards. So they need to do something to change them and get things moving. I mean, no point in belly aching about it. Yes, it's a
yeah, there isn't. They keep going on about it. Do something about it. And you're quite right. Trump has come in and hit the ground running, and it's so refreshing to see somebody do what he's doing. You have, you see the immigrants walking towards a plane for him to take, to come on. And Elon Musk is planning on getting rid of loads of diversity roles within every government department, and that's what needs to happen, because the world has gone so stupid with wokeness and diversity.
Look, we're agreeing, but you're going to get a lot of your listeners, and they totally disagree with us, and that's their choice and that's their opinion. I mean, we've all got an opinion. They're like arseholes. We all have one.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. Okay, so your role. What's your vision for your role that you're going to be taking up, and what specific issues do you plan to tackle in your constituency?
Your constituency. Yeah. Well, look, so I'm going to go back to getting youngsters into work. I think that's the important thing, which will resolve many other problems. Crime on the street, rehabilitation. They become part of society. It gives them a start. So anything to start from from working age or from school leavers age to get people into work training or back into work experience, just to give them a future. And I think if you start from that level, I feel it'll have a knock-on effect. Again, I think with the older people, you just got to make sure that they're not being, how would you put it? They're not being. I'm not thinking of the right words, but I feel at the moment that the UK
they're just being left and forgotten about. Is that what you're saying?
They're being moved to one side. They're being hammered left, right, and centre, and all they're interested in helping is people that don't contribute. Obviously I can't change that, but I wouldn't be encouraging it. You need to make sure pensioners have got heat. You need to make sure that air homeless people have got accommodation and are looked after. We need to concentrate, on our own type of, or our own people first, before we look after, anybody else that's just freeloading.
Yeah, I agree. So how's it going to work? You are living in Spain at the moment. People still don't get that we can have a conversation like this on the internet and think, well, is in Spain. So you are in Spain at the moment. So as this gets nearer to the time when you need to be canvassing and gaining public support, etc., how that's going to work? Are you going to move back? Are you going to flip between the two? How's the dynamic there going to work?
I'll just go along with whatever I need to do. If it means I've got to be there longer, I'll be there longer. If it means that, I'll spend less time in Spain, it's not a problem. I mean, it really ain't a problem. I mean, whatever I need to do, I shall comply with to get things moving. I mean, I'm not convinced at the moment, Mark, though, that these local elections are going to happen. There's a little bit of element of doubt there, isn't there?
There is, mate. Yeah, it's.
And I get a feeling this, Starmer and his little sort of mob are going to come up with something that delays it, because they're going to lose hands down, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, I mean they're in a pickle and they know it, and I mean the talk is that they're going to try and do something to. But I think if they do, I think there will be civil unrest if they try and do that. Exactly how things are.
Could be, but you just get that feeling. There's without over knocking the Labour government, they've got an hard job to do. Let's not kid anyone. Whoever was in power now would have an hard job. But you said the right word. They've got to do something. They've got to do action. They've got to make moves. That's all they've got to do is just come up with something that's a bit more sort of, we can see it as a future, or see an input by. I mean, this thing she's come up with, that they're going to support the terminal-free Heathrow. Yeah. I mean, evidently, you ain't going to see no financial return until at least 2050. And if you think about it, no, not 2050, it'd be 2250. So it's 25 years before we could, benefit from it financially. And she's okay, she's agreeing with it now, and they say if they put shovels in the ground tomorrow, it wouldn't be done until at least 2224. 40 anyhow, not 224,
25 years. You do that.
But why is she playing that card at the moment? And making a big deal of it. Yeah, support it. But it's been sitting there for 25 years. But it ain't gonna make any difference to people for 25 years. So what is the point of doing that? She look to grab that. I think she's grabbing at straws. She doesn't seem as if she can do anything else. So like getting people into work or cutting down, the tax. Or I mean, I even think, Mark, and I've probably got it wrong, that she might even backpedal on reversing national insurance, the increase, because it is going to be so damaging. So,
if I'm honest, Charlie, I'm surprised she's still in her position now after 6 months. I very much doubt in another 6 months she will be, but time will tell. And I think April's going to be a good indicator of that. When the financial year ends,
keep her job. I mean, let's be fair. They must have somebody lined up for it, and it's just a matter of when's the right time to get around. I mean, if she worked for a business, Mark, she'd be gone within the hour.
Well, 100%, yeah. Okay, so you've expressed dissatisfaction with Labour's policies. What are the areas where you believe reform can make a difference? So, what key areas of reform can make a difference in certain areas? This is based on your dissatisfaction of what Labour policies are. So can you just give me a couple of areas where you think reform can make a difference?
Well, I think definitely they will get people into work and encourage people into work and encourage people not to leave the UK. Right. And I also feel that they're going to get many business people coming on board with them. I mean, the last fundraising thing I attended, there were some real top people there that used to be with Conservatives. Obviously, I'm not going to name them, but they used to be with Conservatives. And look at Nick Candy now, and many others are there, and they've got a good support behind them now. And by the way the numbers and figures are growing, I just think they come in and they make changes. There'll be action. They won't be pleasing everybody, but I think the important thing is that we get people into the workplace, and I think that just has this knock-on effect. You know yourself, Mark, when you leave school, if you haven't got a job, you're sort of it's uncomfortable. You're going downhill. All of a sudden, you get a job, and it changes your life. And I believe that's what we've got to do, is get people into work. And I believe that's my strongest point that I think I could offer, whether it be younger people or just older people training, but just get them out of sitting at home all day and nothing to do. And also there's many people on benefits that unfortunately have to be. And yes, you can help them people into work, or maybe they can work from home if they need to. But that's to me is the key. And lots of the other bits I would just have to leave, to obviously reform come out, and also cut all this red tape nonsense down. Trump don't even have a meeting. He goes, gender things ending tomorrow. You're going back to work next week. I mean, why do we not just do that? Why doesn't somebody believe in some of the things they've got to say and put it in place? And I think that's what reform will do. They just come up with, right, we'll put a stop on that. We're not having this nonsense. And that's it, and I feel we've got to have action, haven't we? We can talk for 4 years. If somebody don't do nothing, we ain't going nowhere.
You're quite right. And the point you make about Trump just getting on with it is quite right, because all we ever hear is it's not as easy as that. You can't just do that. You can't just send people back home. Well, you can, because we're seeing it happen in real time, Yeah. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
Sorry, Mark, I've interrupted you. Sorry, go on.
It's frustrating that we sit and we can see that it's all this is happening in America, but we're being fed a different narrative here. I think it's important that we leave the World Health Organization. That's my opinion. I think it's important that we have no ties with WEF. What's your position on that? With regards to who and WEF?
I don't know nothing about it.
Right. Okay. So
it's something, you know, I just avoided, you know, altogether.
okay.
So I was just going to say to you there, the biggest thing I'm getting of our conversation is about somebody making change, somebody doing something, and that's what I believe that Reform will do. They've got loads of ideas they want to put in place, loads of things they know are wrong, and it's all about doing something. And you know, I go back to, you know, I think Nigel Farage is going to be like a mini Trump when he's in there, and within a week or so, making the changes, and the morale of the company of the country will boost. Everyone will be, come on, we can make this happen. Let's fight for our country again. And that's what we need. We need a leader. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, Starmer isn't a leader. I mean, he's not that character. He's got nothing about him that you know, would appeal to anybody. And we're letting him run the country. I think the thing we've got to do is get him out of there and get someone in that can at least, you know, do something. You know what I mean? There's got to have some go in people, isn't you? And that's what we need in there. When Reform get in, they've only got to do one thing, and that's like change everything. And if they do that, then we're up and running.
Well, you're quite right. We need to change this two-party history, really. You know, it's the same thing over and over and over again. So now is the time for something completely different. I do think Reform have got a great chance. I think it's sad that when Nigel Farage is going for Prime Minister in 4 years' time, that Trump will be coming to the end of his administration. So it's kind of like that they're going to be ships in the night passing, because wouldn't it have been great if Trump came into the presidency and Nigel Farage was going for PM at the same time, and having both of those two leading the countries at exactly the same time?
Okay, look, that's in an ideal world, but I believe there'll be an early election. I honestly do not think that Labour can survive the 4 years. So I think it'll be an early election. And, you know, Trump can get re-elected in his position again. But I actually think that they will be both in power together. That's what I don't think it'll take the 4 years. And, you know, again, you know, I think there's the trade deal that I think only Nigel Farage can get with Donald Trump. It's going to happen, but there's got to be some leverage where Nigel Farage is more involved with government or more involved in something. I mean, you know, Trump has already made it very clear that he doesn't want to deal with Starmer or some of the other pests there. And it could even be a situation that, I mean, that's a great leverage he's got there. And I believe something will come of it, and it'll be before Labour are out. You know, we can't wait 4 years.
No, we can't, and I hope that's the case. With regards to Trump and maybe getting re-elected, he's on his second term now, so he can't do any more than this 4 years that he's about to do.
Can't he?
No, that's USA policy.
Okay.
But you said it won't be in 4 years. You think that Labour will be out before then. What do you think triggers it?
Just the downfall of the economy. I've just, you know,
The economy crashes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're in a real mess. I mean, and there's nothing like, the future doesn't look good if they carry on. You know, there's nobody there that seems to have any input or any good ideas. I mean, nothing they're coming out with. If anything, they're making quality of life in the UK for English people a lot worse, and obviously they're making it for a lot better for the other people that are not contributing. And it's got to stop. It just has to stop. I mean, I don't know how bad we can get and go, but you know, we've had 7 months of them. If this continues, where will we be? Like, you know, in 12 months from now, where will we be? We'll be, you know, you know, anybody that can leave here is still leaving. You know, I know she's backtracked Reeves on this the Dom tax thing and all that, and she's obviously not going to follow that through so much now. And she's obviously realised she's made a mistake. Well, I don't know if she has realised. It's obviously been pointed out to her. It's a massive mistake, and we need to reverse them type of thing and encourage people back here and encourage investors. And, you know, we're actually all talking a different thing. You've got all the entrepreneurs saying it's a bad place to be, let's take our money out. And you've got the Labour government saying it's a great place to invest your money. Well, someone's got it wrong. And I know it's not the entrepreneurs.
No, and people are quite blinkered to the fact, and you know, and say it's not happening. That people are leaving the UK, people are closing businesses, and off they go, and that's now. So can you imagine in 4 years' time if
Oh,
Labour are successful again? I think the exodus will be biblical.
undoubtedly. I mean, I know a lot of people now are still planning to leave. You know, as soon as they can get things put together, they're still going to go. And I don't believe that Labour can stop them now. I just don't. I think, you know, whatever they do, Labour, it's too little too late to change people's mind, because anything they say, we're not really going to be trusting them, I don't think. You know what I mean? I don't trust them, and probably like millions of other people. I mean, they're lying through their teeth.
Yeah, they are, and I mean, they got into power on a mandate, and they've not followed through on any of it yet. I don't think. They're claiming to have sent X amount of illegal immigrants home. Well, why aren't we seeing it? Because the public need to see that at the moment. Because they don't
I'm
trust them.
laughing because you see all the queues in America, what he's doing. And yeah, and our people, I don't know, they just come up with something. They make out, you know, they're making out now that, you know, all is good with America, and, you know, it's not, and it won't be. While Labour are there, I honestly don't think the relationship will ever be put right with Trump in America. It would never be put right.
I
We
don't.
need two
I think.
people, and that will happen. I mean, honestly, I really don't see we've got another 4 years here. I really don't see it.
Well, I hope you're right, because I despise Starmer. I despise the Labour Party. Everybody shouted from the rooftops what's going to happen when they get in, and it's all playing out exactly how people said.
Well, actually, Mark, it's a lot worse than what we thought.
It is, yeah. I mean, I knew it'd be bad. I knew it'd be bad, but I didn't realise it would be this bad.
And if you think of it, Mark, they've not really kicked in properly yet, the Labour on the bad side of it, with all the strikes in the unions and, you know, all that's going to be coming out there, and the NHS. I mean, they're actually making the matter worse. So we've got worse to come, I hate to say.
So people are often talking about certain individuals joining Reform, joining the Reform Party. I'm surprised to see you join, but I'm happy about that. What's your thoughts on Ant Middleton, for one? And secondly, if you could handpick a couple from anywhere else, doesn't have to be a party, doesn't have to be, they don't have to be in politics, you know, as in that way. If you could handpick a couple of people, who would you like to see?
I'd like to see like good business people, like millionaires, billionaires, successful business people. Alfie Best, you know, the billionaire that's gone to Morocco. There's another actually millionaire I know that's got the handbag shop in Beecham Place, like where all the, you know, them type of people have got, you know, they're real. They've got a great business brain. They're not going to be playing around, and they don't put up with stupid people. So there's quite, you know, there's some good people out there. There's some good people out there that from a business point of view, know their stuff, and they would be, you know, a massive impact in Reform on the basis that they know what they're talking about. They're not guessing these things. They're successful people, and, you know, let's be fair. If you run the government like a business, you know, I think you've got half a chance. You know, like what Trump's doing now, getting rid of a lot of the federal government workers, or offer them to go. What a great idea that is. I mean, the savings that you would get from getting rid of 50% of civil servants. I'm not talking about the ones that are needed, because, you know, I know, you know, you got a mixture of listeners, and some people will totally disagree with me, but I'm talking about the ones that are just taking a piss, really, you know, the working from home lot, and the, you know, I don't want to do nothing brigade. And that's what we need to do. We've got to do things. We've got to sort of make changes, and they're not going to please everybody, but if you make changes, that's the way to that we can get the UK back.
No, I think you're quite right. I mean, I touched on about 10 or 15 minutes back about diversity roles within the civil service. Are they needed, do you think?
I don't think so. I think it's all nonsense. You know what I mean? They say it's all woke. You can't say this. You can't do this. You got to employ this one. You got to do it. It's all nonsense. It's all unnecessary. You know, it's just so unnecessary. In the last 10, 15 years, we've gone so far backwards with, you know, you got to call me this, and you got to, like, you got to give me a job, and you can't sort of get rid of me. I mean, I think it's wrong. You know, for me, I've always believed in, if you run in a business, you employ who you want, and you get rid of who you want. I don't think the racist comes into it or the gender nonsense. If that person is not suitable for the job, then they need to go.
There's
But
too much. There's too much empowerment. Like you're
yeah,
quite right when it comes to diversity and sexuality. Like you say, it can be used to weaponize business owners. You know, if you wanted to get rid of somebody, then the employees are using because that weapon to call foul on something. And I think that's so wrong because it puts businesses and business owners like yourself in such a predicament. I know you'd be like, you're going to do what you're going to do, but other people are tied back by diversity, by sexuality. I believe it's all nonsense, the same as you, but that's what's called. Every time something happens in a workplace, it's like you're racist or you're discriminating. Discrimination's a massive word now in business.
yeah. Well, look, they've these type of people, the just troublemakers. I'll call them in the workplace, professional troublemakers. They find the loopholes and they jump on them. And I don't know if you're aware, but this working from home nonsense is causing massive HR problems. HR companies in the big companies are being run all over the place with, you won't let me work from home because I'm this colour. You won't let me work from home because I won't comply with it. It's like it's a big problem in the workplace, and it's going to continue until we stop working from home. And I know some of your listeners, they generally do work harder from home, and they generally need to be at home. But I've always said this from day one. I believe 90% of people that work from home are not more productive. But of course, there's some people more productive. But, you've got to get people back into the workplace and get control of the situation. You've got the employees, like, in charge of the employer. And it just doesn't work, Mark. And, don't get me wrong, look, a lot of your listeners are fair. They come on and go, look, I don't agree with Charlie. They're always talking this, that, and the other. And that's fine. But then you get all the other lot on, oh, yeah, he sacked this guy, he done this, he done that. They ain't got a clue about the case. The guy was making out he was self-employed. Sorry, he was making out he was on the cards and he was self-employed. And, because the lies and the, all the do-gooders like turn it round, and this guy actually ruined it for so many self-employed people, absolutely killed it for self-employed people, that all of a sudden they couldn't be self-employed because they're on one job or they're wearing a uniform, all because one guy wanted to tell lies and be greedy. And, a lot of your listeners, they're convinced that, I'm a guy in the workplace with a big stick or a whip and, not treating people fairly. But that isn't the case. It's just turned around now with, the woke nonsense and the gender and the sexuality and what I'm saying. It's just killed it. And until that changes, we ain't going nowhere.
You're not going to please all the people all of the time. And what I like about my followers and the people that would listen to this is that we do have differences of opinion. I'm not going to, people keep saying, why do you have this person on or why do you have that person on? It's because I want debate. I want different opinions. I like the fact that one person won't agree with this person, and that's how I'm going to be moving forward. We're running out of time a little bit, so got a couple more questions for you. The first question is, Charlie, that your constituency would likely be London area. Yeah. That's a matter of fact. You're a businessman, so from a business angle, I think you're all over that, and that's not going to be an issue at all. But how do you approach crime? Now, what I mean by crime is there seems to be a different stabbing every day of the week, and a lot of this comes from the London area. So let's just say you are elected and you get your seat. How would you tackle crime in that area, in particular knife crime?
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction is obviously more police on the street and stop and search. Right. I mean, that's for sure. That's the way to cut down on it. And of course, the sentences for carrying a knife should be a lot. We need the deterrence in there. And, I believe if you're carrying a knife, it's 10 years. If you use it, it's 20 years.
Oh, and
and I believe that, it can be resolved. It can be resolved. And again, Mark, just going back to work, but if these youngsters had a job, every time they're in trouble or get involved with things, we've got nothing to do with following the rest. So by getting them into work, it's going to help resolve the knife crime. Obviously, it's not going to disappear overnight, but they've got to have bigger deterrents. And of course, you've got to have stop and search. But it's really the sentences have got to be, a lot stronger and more powerful, so that I think if they was to do that, like increase the penalties for people that are carrying knives, it's got to help, hasn't it? I mean, it's not a simple problem to resolve, but unfortunately, it's got worse and worse and worse. And I still believe a lot of this is to do with not having a job. You don't often, Mark, get people going around stabbing people that have got a job. I'm not saying it don't happen, but you'll find majority of them, they're unemployed kind of thing and got nothing to do.
Yeah, you're quite right. And what winds me up and pisses me off, to be honest, is that Sadiq Khan has managed somehow to get a knighthood for increased knife crime and for letting London go to shit. I mean, it baffles me. It really does. And you're quite right. It's because they've got nothing to do, and there is no deterrent. They know that they could stab somebody up and they'd only be inside for a year. You've got people involved in these grooming gangs that have been given 3 years. They'll be out in a year and a half, 2 years.
Doesn't make sense, Mark, does it?
Exactly. And then you've got people in jail at the minute that are serving 3 years for writing hurty words on social media. So I think our justice system, because it is
wrong.
I mean, it is so wrong at the minute.
I mean, we've got it wrong, and that's that's what's got to happen. We've got to make changes in many areas, but it's action. We need action, and I don't feel that anything's going to come out from Labour. God forbid if they're there for 4 years. I said from day one that Labour will be begging to get out of Downing Street, and I still believe that. I believe it more today than ever. I just think the downside of what they're doing is just going to come back, and their lives are going to be a nightmare. Nobody's got any respect at the moment for any Labour politicians, and certainly nobody in the cabinet. I mean, we don't even know half of them. And I'm going to say this anyhow. I know I'll get some shit on it, but I see them sitting there at Prime Minister's question time. They've got 4 or 5 of them, the Rayner and Reeves, and a couple of the others that are known. And I look at them and I thought, that's how I look at people. Would I employ them? They look to me like they don't want to be there. They look to me, they've got no warmth about them. All they keep going, all they know, they've got to do that or that. You know what I mean? That's all they're doing there. And, just look at the front row of them, and would you employ them? I mean, would I employ them? No. I mean, if they were stacking shelves in Tesco's, I wouldn't employ them. They've got nothing about them. They've got no go in them. They got all they are is just career politicians. They shouldn't be there, and that's all they are. But what a waste of time. And I get a feeling, on these local elections, and if I get there to be the councillor, and I think you've got some of these busybodies in the council, they're just going through the motions, waste of time. And, we need to just make changes.
I think you're quite right. I think they are going through the motions, and they're just following a script. Following a script at the minute, and they're robotic. They just say the same thing every time they're put in front of a camera. One final question for you, Charlie, and I'll let you go. I know we're tight for time. So it's this: how do you view the future of reform in the context of the next general election? So how do you see this playing out? Do you think they've seriously got a chance to win it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Of course, I do. Yeah, undoubtedly. I see them really coming to the front, fairly soon. They've already took over on the membership, and I think, when if the local elections will happen, I think people will be very surprised. And I think they're really in with they're going to be favourites at the moment to win their next election, aren't they? And I think you're going to find some real top people join Reform, and I think it's going to, persuade a lot of people to know that they're serious. And, I think our biggest thing we've got going for Reform is Nigel Farage. But again, different people, different opinion. But, we've got to have someone that talks the talk and actually does it rather than just waffling on about it. And it's all about change. And I think that's the biggest thing Reform have got going for them. They will make changes.
Action, not words.
Action.
Charlie, I do appreciate you giving me some of your time again. I'm pleased that you're standing for Reform. I like what you stand for. So I'm pleased. So thank you for joining me again. I shall let you go back now, guys. He is in Marbella. He's not in the UK. Okay, so you need to get that right in your head. But Charlie, thanks for joining me again, mate. I am pleased that you've joined Reform and that you're going to stand. So all the very best to you, mate.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks very much for having us on. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so that's that. So Charlie Mullins is going for a seat in Westminster, I think he said. So yeah, I'm pleased about it. I like Charlie. He's a good chap, and he's quite generous with his time to me. So that is all today, guys. I shall leave you be, and I will speak to you all soon.